Welcome to this BNI training video. And if you're new to BNI or your current role, then welcome to the greatest business network on earth. I'm James Muir, the author of The Perfect Close. And in this brief session, we're going to cover why, when it comes to visitor conversions, right? That is having visitors become chapter members, small things make a very big difference. So let's jump right in. And when it comes to converting visitors, the first question we want to ask ourselves, even before the meeting takes place, is, well, what do we want to happen? Right? What do we want to happen as a result of this person visiting our chapter? And in sales parlance, we would call that the meeting objective, right? We want to begin with the end in mind. And it seems pretty obvious, right? I mean, we want them to become chapter members. But I think if you think about it for a minute, I think you'll discover that there's a lot of things that you'd like to happen, right? Things that happen before they become chapter members. We want them to have a great experience. We want them to make new friends, both business and personal. Maybe above all, we want them to be successful, right? In whatever vocation that they're in. And regardless of the vocation that they're in, they probably benefit greatly from having more new business, right? That's probably why they're visiting our chapter in the first place. And the good news is when they win, we win, right? Because givers gain. So the big question here is, how do we go about making that happen? And the key principle here, and the title of this session, is that small things make a big difference. Small things make a big difference. And maybe you've heard the starfish story, where there's a guy walking along a beach and he notices this boy off in the distance who's like picking things up, and then he's throwing them in the ocean. So he approaches this little kid and he says, "Young man, what are you doing?" And the boy says, "I'm throwing these starfish back in the ocean. The tide's going out, and if I don't throw them back, they might die." Right? And in amazement, this guy says, "Well, son, don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach here and hundreds of starfish? You can't possibly make a difference." And after listening politely, the boy just bends down and picks up another starfish and throws it into the surf, and then picking up another one and smiling and showing it to the man. He says, "It makes a difference at this one." Guys, we want our guests' visit to our chapters to make a big difference for them, right? A big difference. And as it turns out, it's the little things that we do before and after our visitor meeting that makes a big difference on whether they become chapter members or not. And of course, that makes us, ask ourselves, all right, well, what can we do, right? What can we do before our visitors attend our chapter that will really make a difference for them? And as it turns out, there's quite a few things, but some of the things we might put on that list are call, right? Have a conversation with them over the phone. Ask them if there's anyone that, somebody they'd like to meet, or let them know what they can expect from the meeting. Get them all the info they need in order to attend. We might even look through LinkedIn to see if we can get them a referral on their very first meeting. And we might share our own personal experience with BNI, get them all excited about coming to the meeting. And of course, answer any questions they have. These little things get the visitor excited and makes them feel important, but it also makes them far, far more likely to become members. Okay. And then our guiding principle when it comes to the meeting itself is just to ask ourselves, hey, what kind of meeting would I like? Right? What kind of experience would I like if this was my first visit? What would make this phenomenal? And then we're just going to recreate that from them for them. And what I would say is just this is just my experience, my perspective, but you take it for what it's worth. But it's my personal opinion that the single best thing you could do is just make sure they get a referral on that very first visit. And what I recommend that you do is you or the person invited them, just briefly meet with them together and then look through LinkedIn, through some of the chapter members' connections and find someone that they'd like an introduction to. Okay, just kind of like you're shopping. And then our visitor going to show up for sure because they know the meeting itself is going to have value right from the get-go, and they're going to see it works right from the beginning. Now, I'm going to give you a little insight into selling here. This is Danish researcher Martin Lindstrom. And in a very large study, he actually proves without question something that we have been, sort of surmising or saying about selling for a lot of years. And that is that all sales are made emotionally, and then later they're justified with logic. Okay. And how he proved this is really fascinating. He used what's called functional magnetic resonant imaging, fMRI. Okay. And what that does is it lets scientists actually see and measure brain activity in real time. Right. So what Dr. Lindstrom did is he observed thousands of people's brains literally right while they were making purchasing decisions. And after doing all that research, he discovered that 85% of all decision making is emotional, and that only 15% of that is based on logic. So that's an interesting factoid, right? Why am I sharing that with you? Well, because the little things that we do before, right, our meeting and during the follow-up are mostly about making our visitors feel valued and feel important. Okay. And it might surprise you, but actually 9 out of 10 sales interactions don't end in a win or lose. That's not what happens usually. What usually happens is we get something called an advance where the sale moves forward in a little way. And because of that fact, consistent, effective follow-up is literally it's the second most important selling skill. Okay. Right behind, wait for it, planning, which is what we're doing right now. Right. So the question is, why is it that following up makes people so much more effective? Why is it so important? And that ties back to that previous thing that we just looked at about how all decision making is emotional. And the answer to that question is follow up makes people feel important. It's emotional, right? So let me ask you a question. Let's say you visited a chapter, you met some cool people, you had a good experience, right? But no one ever contacted you after that. How would you feel? Right? I mean, what's the visitor thinking? They're thinking, oh, yeah, those guys were nice, right? But they don't really care about me. They're all busy. They got things to do, right? Something like that, right? But when we reach out and we genuinely share how excited we are to have met them and how wonderfully they fit in, then how do we feel? Okay. The truth is, there's a lot of great reasons to follow up, but of all of them, this is the one that matters the most. Okay. Follow up makes people feel important. And feeling matters. It matters because, again, 85% of that decision is based on emotion, that feeling that you are giving them. Okay. Now, effective follow up is relationship based and it's service driven. Okay. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about serving the person, right? It's about serving the people that we care for. And it might surprise you that statistically, most people give up after just one attempt at follow up. Okay. But now let's be real, right? Let's be honest. Have you ever tried to follow up with somebody and then you got radio silence? Yeah, of course, right? We've all been there. That's all happened to all of us. But let me share a really fascinating fact with you. The Journal of Sales, Service, and Marketing Research conducted a study last year on why this happens. And they contacted thousands of people who had expressed an interest in a product or a service, but then went radio silent. Okay. And so they ended up ultimately contacting all these people to find out why they went silent. Okay. Even after several attempts to get them. And you know what they found? You know what they found? They found that 89.4% of them, almost 90% of them said, actually, I'm still interested. Okay. Okay. But that the other priorities had just gotten in the way and they hadn't had time to get back to it yet. Okay. Guys, that is amazing. That is amazing. If they don't respond right away, don't sweat it. It's not that they're not interested. They are. They are interested. They're just busy. They're busy like we all are. Okay. Does that make you feel a lot better? I know when I read that, I was blown away by that. We're not bothering them. They are genuinely interested. They're just busy like you are. Okay. So what kinds of things can we do after our meeting that would make it a great experience with them, right? That would increase our conversion. Well, this might sound a little familiar, right? But we could call them up and have a conversation with them over the phone, right? We can see if they got the link so they can apply. We can see if there's someone that they want an introduction to, or maybe they want to meet us, right? So maybe they can still want to do business with us, see if we can do business together. We're going to answer any questions that they have and make sure they've got all the information that they need in order to make a good business decision about BNI. Maybe we're going to even invite them to another meeting if that seems like the right thing. But above all, we want to make them feel loved and important because, guys, that's how this decision actually gets made. So these insights that I just provided you with, that tells us, it gives us a prescription on how we should follow up. Okay. Our follow-up message should make them feel loved and important. It should be understanding about how busy they are, and maybe even use the busyness, right, as the reason that they should engage. I mean, we could say, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you could come up for air because you got a whole army of BNI members referring you business, right? It'd be great to have you with us every week. We loved having you. And we could easily do an entire, hour-long session on this. But when it comes to follow-up, there's just two things that I want you to remember here. And that's first, take the time to follow up. Take the time to follow up. It makes people feel important. And second, if they don't respond right away on the first attempt, don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. It's not you. They really are interested. And finally, always remember why we're doing this. We're doing this because we want them to succeed. Good people with resources is a good thing in this world, and we want to help everyone that we can that meets that criteria. So until next time, keep fighting the good fight, and I'll see you.